Okay, new format, Q&A. I received a fantastic question over an email asking me about the amount of accounting information that the students are expected to know for the finance questions. So my approach to that, as a person who is judging the questions as well as composes those questions. I can't speak for everybody, but my approach is the following. So you can't really know finance, you can't really understand finance without knowing basics of accounting. Okay, so what do I mean by basics of accounting? So you really, to understand what a company is, what a firm is, what a bank is, what their functions are, you need to understand when we speak about an entity like that, what do we have in mind? And that boils down to understanding the basic components of the balance sheet. Okay, so we have assets on the left-hand side, we have liabilities plus equity on the right-hand side. Okay, applied to an individual, that same concept gives you the idea that we have assets on the left-hand side of our personal balance sheet, and then we have liabilities, and the remaining part, the concept of equity, transforms into concept of net worth. So it doesn't matter what kind of finance you touch, you really need to understand at least basic principles of how the information is recorded, okay? How it's organized. And this is essentially the kind of the fundamentals on which then we can kind of build finance upon, okay? So that level of understanding of accounting is crucial to understand finance. Okay, so in my personal role as a finance researcher, I work with essentially two types of data. I work with accounting data, so data on companies, data on banks, data on other financial institutions like dealers. Okay, so this is all kind of accounting information. And then I also work with the data on financial market transactions. Okay, so they're equally important. One really cannot do kind of a profound research in finance without kind of a very good understanding of how the two data kind of coexist and merge. So even if you look in just at the transactions in the financial markets, say you're looking at what is called TAC data, it records every single transaction in the equity markets. You need to understand what kind of instruments you are trading, right? So what these transactions are about. So is it Apple? Is it Microsoft shares? And then once you identify this, you look at their accounting information to make more sense of the underlying assets that are being traded. Okay, so finance, there is really no way of knowing finance without knowing basics of accounting. Okay, and that the fundamental accounting information, and that I think is natural to expect students to know, to understand, to be able to argue about financial concepts. Of course, nobody really expects you to understand as a student in finance to know the difference between, say, international financial reporting standards or GAAP principles. Okay, so the intricacies of how this financial information is recorded in particular different jurisdictions is indeed a domain that most students will get exposed to only if they choose to specialize in accounting in their undergraduate degrees. Okay, so I referee papers for accounting journals, so I'm a little bit sitting in between. Kind of, I am a finance professor, but I also do a little bit of accounting. I also do a little bit of theoretical econometrics. So from the kind of, once you reach high up enough in research, you notice that a lot of the kind of the questions, the principles that are applied in many of those kind of disciplines are similar toolboxes, similar questions. So accounting is more about information economics, how you design signals that are the most useful. Okay, so at the undergraduate level in accounting, you would talk about different financial reporting systems. How do you make sure that you follow the rules? At the research level, you will talk about how to design new accounting systems that deliver the most important information. In finance, we take that system, that accounting system as given, and we learn to use it to make investment decisions. And that's the perspective, that's the depth of accounting knowledge that we expect for you in those finance questions. Understanding accounting information, not the intricacies, itsy-bitsy details. Is it equity? Is it debt? How is it recorded within different systems, right? So the understanding where the information for financial decision making is coming from and where to find it essentially. Is it in the assets? Is it in the liabilities? And if it's in the liabilities, what does it mean? It means that it's a debt, right? So it belongs to, it's our liability to another entity, and so on and so forth. So very kind of, I think, foundational understanding of accounting principle is expected, and you can't really do finance without it, right? So like you can't talk about the concept of net worth for an individual, a very important concept of for the personal financial management, if you don't understand that there is left-hand side we have assets, right-hand side we have liabilities plus equity or net worth for individuals. So once again, it's not just some arbitrary choice, where do we draw a line, if this accounting is useful, that is not, right? It's driven by the need to make informed financial decisions. That's the kind of accounting extent that we expect you to know for the questions in finance.